DHG here, and I'm doing my conclusion for Gears of War Judgment. How bad is it? The final verdict? It's bad. Now I have my list of pluses and minuses to go through here, and so I'll start off with the positives. They added some new game modes in this, and if you haven't seen the other videos and you're just jumping to the conclusion here, I'm going to give you some updates. The story campaign is segmented into different, let's just call them skirmishes, like the one you're in here, where you encounter a ton of enemies at once and then you meet a, a stopping point. It scores you and then it moves on to the next area. It's segmented like that the whole way through the game, and it just completely breaks the flow of the gameplay. It's terrible. Maybe some people like the decision. I freaking hated it. I didn't like it then. I thought maybe my opinion would have changed since, I haven't played this since it first came out. No, I still hate it. Another thing is there's no horde mode in multiplayer. One of the biggest things from Gears 2 and Gears 3, they just decided to leave out. Kinda. You see elements of horde mode with setting up defenses and all that in the campaign. Quite a strange decision by the developer. I never really quite understood what they were going for with that. Why they didn't make a horde mode, I have no idea. But they added something else, and this is one of the pluses. One of the modes they added was survival, which, let me exit out of this one and get into that video. This is basically survival mode. There's different waves where enemies attack you. Right now I'm playing with all bots because no one's playing this online anymore. This is something that you could play split screen, I think. Yeah, you can play split screen because I remember a dude I used to work with when this came out. He used to play split screen with his wife all the time. And he said that, I lost my train of thought for a minute there. Basically what you're doing is defending these E-holes. You can't repair them. Once it gets destroyed, you fall back to another location. Like they destroyed the first one, we're here defending it now. This game was a lot of fun, but it had a lot of problems with it too. Like the COG, from my experience playing this game, and I played many matches, a couple dozen, and I eventually just got so sick of the problems with the game that I stopped playing it. It needed balanced out badly. And from what I remember, the COG, when you play as them, they are very overpowered compared to the Locust. The Locust have a hell of a time getting through any given objective. Certain maps are much easier than the others, but sometimes it was just damn near impossible to complete your objective. If you're playing as the COG, like I just tried to repair it there, you can't do it. If you're playing as the COG, it's much easier. But this game mode, it was a lot of fun for a while. It could have been a lot better if they had fleshed it out and balanced it out, but they didn't. I don't know what the final state ended up being, but me playing it at launch and shortly thereafter, it was wildly broken. Some other positives. The controls are good, but the layout's bad. When I say the controls are good, I'm talking about the sensitivity within the aiming thumbstick that can make or break a game. In this game it works just like the other Gears games, but they changed the loadout. They decided to stop the weapon swap with the D-pad. They changed that to Y, so it plays much more like Call of Duty. This is very jarring after you're used to the traditional Gears loadout, and you can't change it. I went into the options menu to controls layout, and you get what you got with this. Another plus, graphics are great. That was what I started off with. Yeah, the graphics in this are quite nice, but that's about it. Oh, here's a small representation of what they gave you for Horde. It's not even close to being Horde, but it's about as close as you're going to get in this game. Another impressive feat. The amount of enemies on screen is impressive. Sometimes it's a bit too much for the Xbox 360 to handle, though, as I've seen it kill the frame rate numerous times. Not single digits, but still made it very hard to aim and made the controls very unresponsive. So let's get into what makes this game so bad. I've already said some of it. There's no exploration on the map. As I said, the game is broken up into different segments. And between point A to point B, from the beginning of the segment to the end of the segment, there's no exploration on the map whatsoever. You're not going to find anything hidden in any nooks and crannies except for maybe a grenade, but there's really no reason to look around. It's about the most linear Gears I've ever played, and Gears has always been a linear game. It's much more linear here. Segmented gameplay destroys single-player flow. Yes, I've already alluded on to that, and it does. It's just jarring. That was the first thing that hit me when I first played this when it first came out. I thought, why in the hell would you do this? I mean, what possible reason did they have for this? Did they just have a big hard-on for scoring, or... It kind of... At one point in the playthrough, I said, I wonder if they just... When they thought about developing this game, they said, what would Epic Games and Cliffy B do? Alright, let's do the total opposite of that. And it seems like that's what they did. I don't know if they were actually trying to make this a good game, or if they just didn't really care, they just wanted to do their thing. There's no Horde multiplayer, but there's Horde waves in single player? Yes, quite an odd design choice. I've already mentioned that. To replace Horde mode, you get Survival, but it's not as good. No, it isn't nearly as good as Horde. Horde was a great game mode, and I still love playing it in Gears 5, but there's no Horde to be had here. I was so pissed off when I got this game and saw that there was no Horde mode. The narrative is horrible. Yeah, the story was so interesting in this game that I don't really remember a damn thing about it, and I just played through it. That's how interesting it is. Story is uninteresting. Yeah, I just got into that. It's basically about a testimony between all these different soldiers and why they had to do what they did, but it was just really stupid. It barely helped move the narrative forward, and that's what good narrators are supposed to do. They're supposed to help move the gameplay forward. This was just like, hey, let's say a few words and kill some locusts. They could have just made this a complete shooting show and cut out the dialogue altogether except for the battlefield chatter, and it would have been just as good. Probably better, because you wouldn't have to have watched the cutscenes then. And here is probably what pissed me off the most about this game. Once I learned that this was going to be centered around the E-Day, or around the events of E-Day, which is when the Locust emerged from the ground, I thought there's a lot they could do with this narrative. I mean, they could show the struggle within the civilian population, they could show the COG with its pants around its ankles trying to manage this invasion somehow. I mean, they had so much to go with here. And we got this. I mean, the story was paper thin, at best, and it was uninteresting, at best. They could have made a particularly compelling game just from the story alone and all the events surrounding E-Day. But they just chose to throw the idea of Gears of War Judgment down on the ground and piss all over it. And the game shows. But that's my opinion about Gears Judgment. The game's bad. You want to play any other games in the series, I highly suggest that. Stay away from this one.